Hello everyone, welcome back to Angel's Night Talk. Let's continue with Behind the Pandemic, Episode 2, and to find out why America was hit so hard in this crisis. Please subscribe and remember to click the bell button so that you will receive notice when new videos posted on my channel. Thank you. Before the start of this program, let's take a few seconds to have a look at some pictures first. This is the picture of Dr. Fauci, the example for the American people. This is Bill Gates criticized the White House on Twitter. He claims halting funding for the World Health Organization during a world health crisis is as dangerous as it sounds. Their work is to slow the spread of COVID-19, and if that work is stopped, no other organization can replace them. The world needs WHO now more than ever. This is the COVID-19 daily change chart of Taiwan during this pandemic. This is the COVID-19 data updated to 17th of August 2020. It shows the comparison of Taiwan, the United States, Brazil, India, Russia, and the worldwide numbers. In the previous episode, I went through most of the theories regarding the origin of the COVID-19. Although each one was hypothetical, there was clear logic behind the announcement of the WHO Director General Dr. Tedros. And some of the findings lead to the possibility of the Chinese theory. But maybe that's not the whole picture. Now, let's have a look at the final one, the Dr. Fauci theory, so we can understand why America was hit so hard in this pandemic. The theory claims Dr. Fauci backed the Wuhan lab for the research of coronaviruses, but that was not the surprising part. Further accusations claim that he had over the past decade manufactured and shipped coronaviruses to Wuhan, which became the original epicenter of the current outbreak. Sounds like a crazy theory, but was that out of the blue? I totally understand that Dr. Fauci is a highly respected expert in the US, and more people trusted him over Donald Trump in dealing with this pandemic. But given his performance in the White House Coronavirus Task Force, I really cannot understand why people should continue to follow his advice. I think it was too much for anyone to believe that Dr. Fauci created the virus. But it should not rule out the possibility, given that ever since the Obama administration, there were quite significant funding being directed to the Wuhan lab under his discretion. Maybe as an infectious disease expert, his intention was all good, but it wasn't always under his control, given the complicated political system in China. Well, let's believe that he has nothing to do with what happened in China. But what did he do when the pandemic reached America? First of all, he doesn't support Trump's decision to initiate the travel ban from China. And later on, he doesn't support the idea of people wearing masks at the beginning of this pandemic. Apart from his explanation of the effectiveness when wearing a mask, he was worried that people wear masks would cause shortage for the people who really need it. Wasn't that something Donald Trump should be worried about? Like what happened in the beginning with the concern over ventilators. Later on, he was not only advocating wearing masks, but also goggles. And yet he did not set a good example for American people as what has been shown at the beginning of this video. It's understandable that situation changed and he could make adjustments to his recommendations. But it does not justify his claim that hydroxychloroquine isn't effective in treating COVID-19. In my first video about Donald Trump, I mentioned it's really hard to understand why taking hydroxychloroquine was his fault. I actually figured that one out after uploading the video. Hydroxychloroquine as an antimalarial drug was demonized by media ever since Trump said he took it. The drug that has been used for over 60 years suddenly has very serious side effects that could kill patients based on a recent trial study in Oxford. And for some bizarre reason, frail patients were fed between 4 to 6 times the recommended dose of this potent drug. Well, nothing good would come out of that study for sure. And that's the evidence for the whole world to deny this possible cure for the COVID-19. On the other hand, so many clinical studies show that hydroxychloroquine plus zinc could significantly reduce the fatality rate of COVID-19. But as the director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases and one of the lead members of the White House Coronavirus Task Force, Dr. Fauci chose to be blinded in front of the facts. No drugs in human history have ever had so much controversy like hydroxychloroquine. Why? Because Trump took it, and even in a life and death situation like now, people are not advised to use it. COVID-19 patients already risking their lives to fight the virus, and yet they are still not supposed to die the hydroxychloroquine way. Maybe only the COVID-19 deaths can be classified as a good death, and that's why even young people who died in motorcycle accidents were counted in it. What's wrong with America? Just because Trump is right, but not politically correct, Dr. Fauci is willing to sacrifice countless innocent lives to help the left overthrow him? Another more astounding comment from Dr. Fauci was when he praised New York's COVID-19 response. With the highest number of cases and death toll in the US, Governor Cuomo surely did a pretty good job by ordering nursing homes to accept COVID-19 positive patients so that there will be more casualties in the most vulnerable community and blame it all on Trump. Sure, Dr. Fauci wanted to point out that New York has gone past the worst time and seems to have it under control now. But how could he keep himself blinded from states like South Dakota? Did the response of Republican states not worth learning no matter how good they are? If he believed in keeping the numbers down from very high levels, maybe he should promote herd immunity instead, because sooner or later the case numbers will be down. As long as the numbers are down, no matter what the cost is, and he thinks is a good response. Many people only see these bizarre comments from Dr. Fauci, but the reason behind it always comes to one simple thing: the hard lockdown of the entire USA. Democrats has been pushing this methodology from the beginning, although lots of evidence has proven it doesn't work that well. Auckland, New Zealand, Melbourne, Australia, and many other examples all proven the hard lockdown wasn't as effective as authorities hoped it would be. Especially when you can only lock down normal people's life, but you can never lock down the politically correct, peaceful protesters. Even if, under the pressure of Democrats, Dr. Fauci cannot praise a Republican state like South Dakota, he shouldn't be blinded about Taiwan, the best place in the world in coping with this pandemic. Life went on with very limited interruptions and everything was under control without the pain and suffering of a hard lockdown. Why did he not see all these facts? Did he not know the negative impact on people's lives with the hard lockdown? Was he not aware of the mental stress, the economic impact that cost lives in forms other than the virus itself? Has anyone raised the question that without Dr. Fauci's professional opinion, what would America look like in this pandemic? Currently, Trump is blamed for everything that went wrong in America during this pandemic. But the United States is not a centralized system and very weak in dealing with this kind of crisis. Other than initiate travel ban, facilitate testing, and vaccine development, there is really not much federal government can do. Each state government has their own power, and when they were calling for help, and then the federal government can do their part, like what happened with the ventilators, and mobilize the National Guards to build the field hospitals. When the situation got better, the state government took the credit, but when things got worse, the federal government took the blame. Why? Because there is an election coming soon, and the most controversial president did a very good job with the economy in the past 3 years. Now, this pandemic is the perfect opportunity to take him down. Democrats will never waste any crisis to make that happen. When the Russian collusion and the impeachment all failed one after another, this is the only card they have left to defeat Trump, and any recovery before the election would be bad news to them, so they need to make sure everyone is on board to accept the hard lockdown nationwide in America to keep the economy down as long as possible till the election. And with the help of the Black Lives Matter protests to spread the virus, they have every reason to convince people that the lockdown is the only way to stop COVID-19. Except maybe when everyone gets on board with the Black Lives Matter protests, then there won't be any lockdown needed. So when COVID-19 pandemic hit America so hard, you should know the reason behind it was that the virus has been politicized. Even if people don't believe Dr. Fauci has anything to do with the creation of this virus, but he surely didn't do much to stop it. And considering the funding from Obama administration to the Wuhan lab, both Democrats and the Chinese government wanted Trump to lose in this election. So when all other attacks failed, a coordinated effort as an insurance policy should not be surprised as out of the blue. So whether people believe the theory or not, it is inevitable for the American people to suffer. And to go one step further in your thinking, the entire human race has caved in the far-left extreme ideology under the cover of the COVID-19 pandemic. When Western countries ignored all potential cures and continue to pursue authoritarian style of draconian lockdown measures, it is the end of democracy, and civil liberties no longer exist in modern society. Because once the left has tasted the sweetness of the power, they will never let it go, and they will guard it with the most powerful weapon in the world, political correctness. When talking with friends nowadays, quite often I got the impression I don't know what to believe now. Up to this point, I know the propaganda worldwide surely worked well to brainwash ordinary people. Otherwise, people should at least ask, what's so bad about trying out the proposed cures anyway? People are dying either way. Any life saved by those cures is a success, isn't it? Wouldn't it be great if we take responsibility for our own health so we can get on with our lives? Most people supporting the idea of a hard lockdown were really those who will not lose their income and livelihood in this crisis. What about those who couldn't afford it? Anyone cared about them? Why authorities are so afraid of the cures and have to wait for the vaccine instead? The answer is simple: to keep people under control, just like the digital certificates proposal from Bill Gates. The moment Bill Gates criticized the decision from the White House to halt funding for the World Health Organization, people should at least ask one question. Were you blind, Bill? And when he claimed the world needs WHO now more than ever, I want to say, what about Taiwan? They don't have the WHO at their back, and yet they're the best in the world coping with this pandemic. Oh, by the way, did you not see what's happened in the beginning? Without WHO, there wouldn't be a global pandemic in the first place. After all these phenomena, I rather believe that Bill Gates, Dr. Fauci, World Health Organization, Democrats, Black Lives Matter, Chinese government, along with all the far-left ideology supporters around the globe, are working together to make sure this COVID-19 pandemic is their chance to rule the world. Ironically enough, the rich and famous could avoid being bounded by the rules of all these new COVID-19 restrictions. Please refer to the links under this video to find out how a celebrity could avoid hotel quarantine and a billionaire family managed to get across the closed border to enjoy their lifestyle on the sunny Gold Coast. Sure, they're not worried about the lockdown. They can afford to embrace the far-left ideology because hypocrisy is always the truth behind political correctness. When they have the privilege, why deny it? Well, it doesn't matter what's the truth behind this pandemic. What has been displayed is the nature of humanity. It's a game of power and control, and we're all victims. One day, when you wake up to realize the truth, I would be glad to say, congratulations. Welcome to the real world. I'm Andrew Hathaway. Thanks for watching.